nothing special. Just workout 100. Nothing special in the sense that I've done thousands of workouts anyway. It's only the thousandth, sorry, the 100th streamed workout. So I guess it's my century. So I figured. I've already talked about it earlier that I'll probably destroy myself, punish myself somehow. So I'm figuring I'm just going to do burpees. That's it. I'm just going to see how many burpees I can do. I keep going. It's going to be the simple one where I just hip thrust the ground. It's going to be a full proper get down to the floor, push up off the ground, and then jump into the air, then back down. I haven't done burpees in a while. Honestly, I'm very confident, but at the same time, I know I'm probably gonna die. Like, a part of me wanted to set the number. Let's see, maybe we can get to 1,000, but no. So for now, for today, let's just use this as a baseline and see how many we get through. As always, I'm always listening to stuff in the background. Any questions, please ask. Yeah, I guess let's just get started. It's not gonna become any less by doing nothing, I guess.
Only do this if he could do it his own way, which I'm not sure what that means. Zayd, can you explain?
If you look, the guy's
Zayd?
knee wasn't even on his neck like that. When he said mama is his girlfriend.
It's like 3 weeks out from the midterms. I got idiots trying to tell me how the shit work. Wear dipshit merch for the picture. I get stupid on Twitter means independent thinker. Fake badge out saying give birth. Everybody does, well except her. Morons giving lectures at the lectern. Now they gotta pay for.
I don't need that.
Beautiful bastards, welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show. Buckle up, and I just gotta say this right at the top. After today's show, please watch this video if you have not. It is a special bonus video I uploaded this morning. It is unlike anything we've ever uploaded to this channel, which makes it all the more amazing that like 95% of people that have watched it love it. It's something we're aiming to do every Monday morning for you, and that's in addition, of course, to all the Philip DeFranco shows and all the goodness that you normally get. I'll also make it a top link in the description down below for you to make it very easy. But that said, buckle up, make sure you hit that like button because you're getting filled in more than ever, and let's just jump into it. The Kanye situation has gotten worse, which is somehow both surprising and expected. So for the past couple of weeks, Kanye's been out there saying disgusting, horrible things, spreading dangerous conspiracy theories, regurgitating lies, going on, really fun anti-Semitic tirades. Let me be clear about this. I think Kanye West is a fucking scumbag. And not just because he's out there spreading lies and anti-Semitic garbage, but the fact that he's like excited and pumped to do so and loves the fact that he cannot be held accountable.
Rather
One of
do
the most
just
notable
20
parts of the Kanye West podcast that ended up
push-ups
getting
and 20
taken
squats.
down was this moment.
The thing
So
about
much easier.
Adidas is like, I can literally say anti-Semitic shit and they can't drop me. I can say anti-Semitic things and Adidas can't drop me. Now what?
Despite what he'll say elsewhere to try to get heat off of him, he knows what he's doing and he's excited
good thing I
to
didn't
do
say
it. I
1,000.
see the situation's getting worse. I don't just mean like Kanye saying more horrible stuff. We're seeing stuff bleed into the real world. On Saturday, for example, an anti-Semitic hate group hung banners from the 405 freeway in Los Angeles, including one that said Kanye is right about the Jews. With them also seen doing the Nazi salute, and that was just one instance of anti-Semitism in LA over the weekend. With attorney and city council candidate Sam Yebri tweeting that an anti-Semitic flyer was delivered to homes in his neighborhood. Others also tweeting photos of flyers that were allegedly distributed in the Brentwood area, with those containing conspiracy theories and specifically referencing people who work for Disney, in the Biden administration, and in public health. So you have the Los Angeles and Beverly Hills police departments both telling the LA Times that they were investigating these flyers. And of course, there's been a huge response to all of this. Everyone's sounding off, including Representative Adam Schiff. His district is in Los Angeles, and he said, horrified by the vile anti-Semitism on display in LA this weekend. Tragically, it shows the power some hold to amplify hateful language and how quickly they can persuade others to express their own bigotry. We must condemn hate wherever we see it immediately and forcefully. Also, mayoral candidate Karen Bass specifically calling out Kanye, saying, "We must all condemn the hate spewed by Kanye West, which has real consequences that we saw."
Grabbed a bunch of elastic bands.
This morning, you had Kanye's ex-wife
to count how many sets I'm gonna do.
Hate speech is never okay or excusable.
I grabbed a
We
handful.
stand together with the Jewish community,
More than my
calling
usual
terrible
5,
violence and
6.
hateful rhetoric towards them to come to an immediate end. This is also
I'll be happy if I get 6.
Adidas or Adidas facing a ton of pressure to drop its partnership with Kanye. But if you don't know, he works with them for his Yeezy line, and the company said the collaboration was under review following those White Lives Matter shirts. So you had people wondering, is that actually real? Is it actually under review? Especially since they just released a new color of Yeezys on Sunday. And so in addition to everyday people putting pressure on Adidas, you had the ADL, for example, releasing a campaign titled "Tell Adidas to Run Away from Anti-Semitism," saying Adidas allowing Kanye to continue to spew hateful rhetoric without consequence sets a dangerous precedent of giving social influencers a pass for being
Is that how people be pronouncing Adidas this whole time?
Protect against the spread of hate. Please join ADL in contacting Adidas and demanding they condemn Kanye's anti-Semitism and reevaluate their partnership. Which is also why if you hopped on Twitter, you boycott Adidas trending. And this seeming to gain a lot of traction because people say, this would actually hurt Kanye, or at least hurt him where he cares. Because according to Forbes, Adidas pays West over $200 million annually, and the outlet estimates that his $2 billion net worth would fall below $1 billion if they dropped it. And of course, they're not the only company. Kanye was actually recently dropped from Balenciaga. Just this morning, we learned that he was dropped by talent agency CAA. Yeah, right now it's a developing situation. We're gonna have to wait to see what happens next for the human anti-Semitic wrecking ball. I don't know. What are your thoughts here? And then this is not Belle Delphine, not to try to be her PR or anything, but this is not her. I say that because it appears that there's been some confusion inside of a controversy. And oddly, this connects to the Amaranth story that we talked about last week, where she came out on a live stream saying she was in an abusive marriage, that he was allegedly forcing her to work against her will. Most people responded with empathy, with sympathy, saying, hey, this is horrible. This sounds so scary. I hope you can get out of that situation. But at least one person saw this devastating news and was like, how can I get the attention and make this all about me? With that person not being Belle Delphine, but rather social media model Ellie Ray, who actually going into her Twitter bio even describes herself as a dollar store Belle Delphine. Though to her and anyone that confused the two, I have to ask, how long have you been partially blind? You using bleach eye drops? I'm just
what have I done?
Ellie Ray was in the news this weekend because she tweeted photos of her dressed as Amaranth along with the caption, if I stop streaming for The Sims, he teaches me a lesson. And in those photos you can see her feet tied to a chair, with that being an obvious reference to the abuse Amaranth faced and her being forced to stream. Her original tweet has since been deleted, but of course you have tons of people calling her out, including one saying this cosplay was one of the most distasteful things I've ever seen. Others saying things like, I hope you know that this type of so-called humor is the validation abusers cling to and encourages the twisted reasoning they use to justify harming others. Of course, abuse is not a joke, assault is not a joke, have some fucking common decency. But also, even though she took down the original post, I don't even think that she feels bad, because it appears that she is loving this attention, because just this morning she posted another photo where she's again dressed like Amaranth, with rope covering her body and legs tied to a chair, writing, I'm sorry, might delete later. So really, it appears that she's trying to rage bait for dollars rather than being kind of a decent human being. Or I guess not even that, just not actively being a bad one. But hey, congrats.
Not even into Amaranth.
And then the stock market
the whole domestic violence issue that was revolving around her.
Really hard to navigate on your own, which is why
serious enough.
Time to thank the fantastic sponsor.
Don't have to be into anything. So that's wrong.
Public is the only investing platform that allows you to invest
some chick is cosplaying
crypto and now alternative
Amaranth.
assets.
Trying to look like that. She's
Fine art
captive.
and collectibles all in one place. Thousands of stocks and ETFs, over 30 cryptos, and 25 alts with more coming soon. In addition to being an all-in-one platform, Public gives you all the information and metrics that matter for the assets that you care about. You can browse the latest news related to an asset, share ideas with other like-minded investors, or even listen to Public live shows that feature conversations with experts and experienced investors across different asset places. Public always puts investors first, and they don't sell trades to market makers or take money for payment for order flow. And amazingly, for a limited time, when you sign up at public.com/DeFranco, you'll get up to $10,000 when you transfer your account from another broker. See additional terms and conditions by following the link in the description. And then, plastic recycling has been an abject failure, and that's not my opinion, that's just what the numbers say. Right, so a new report by Greenpeace found that only 5% of plastic waste generated by Americans was actually recycled last year. According to the study, U.S. households generated 51 million tons of plastic waste in 2021, and only 2.4 million tons were actually recycled, which is also a massive drop from 2014 when plastic recycling peaked at 10%. But a key thing to take away from this story is that this isn't just like about Americans personally failing to recycle their plastic, but rather that there are a ton of widespread systematic issues at basically every step of the way. For example, Greenpeace found that not one kind of plastic packaging in the United States actually meets the definition of recyclable that is used by the FTC or the Ellen MacArthur Foundation's new Plastic Economy Initiative. In fact, even plastics that have long been considered recyclable, like bottles and jugs, fall way short of the 30% recycling rate that the foundation uses to define recyclable. And that's in addition to all the other kinds of plastics that are also labeled as recyclable, even though they fail to meet the FTC's classification. With the report also going beyond that and outlining 5 different reasons why plastic recycling is what it calls a failed concept. First, plastic waste is generated in such massive quantities and is extremely difficult to collect. Second, even if all the plastics were collected, the different mixes of plastics can't be recycled together. And in addition to many people not knowing that, it would also be functionally impossible to sort the trillions of pieces of consumer products waste produced each year. Third, the process of recycling is actually very harmful for the environment, not only generating microplastics, but also exposing workers to toxic chemicals. Fourth, recycled plastic is made of
it's reminding me of
by toxic chemicals, so
Muay Thai class days.
Great material again. And fifth, the recycling process is actually insanely and even in some places prohibitively expensive. So as a result, the Greenpeace report explicitly states the plastics, packaging, and recycling industries have waged a decades-long misinformation campaign to perpetuate the myth that plastic is recyclable. And while all of this is going on, the production of new non-recycled plastics is rapidly increasing, with Greenpeace USA Senior Plastics campaigner Lisa Ramsden saying in a statement, corporations like Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Nestle, and Unilever have worked with industry front groups to promote plastic recycling as a solution to plastic waste for decades. But the data is clear. Practically speaking, most plastic is just not recyclable. And so Lisa has called on corporations to back the global plastics treaty, which the United Nations members created earlier this year, as well as move toward refill and reuse strategies. With Lisa adding, this isn't actually a new concept. It's how the milkman used to be. It's how Coca-Cola used to get its beverages to be. They would drink their beverage, give the glass bottle back, and it would be sanitized and reused. And here's the thing, it's not like an impossible concept. A number of other countries have actually implemented these kinds of practices. But given the absolutely insane power that corporations have in the US, it's probably unlikely that we're going to see changes. Or as long as there's that much money to be gained or lost, we're not the United States of America, we're the United States of lobbying. And then voter intimidation is already happening in Arizona. November 8th is still 2 weeks away, and it's already happened. So just this week, in the Maricopa County Elections Department tweeted out pictures of 2 armed individuals dressed in tactical gear that were seemingly watching over a mail-in ballot drop box in Mesa, Arizona on Friday. With the department going on to note that the people left after the sheriff's office arrived, and adding, uninformed vigilantes
so
outside
hopeful.
Maricopa County's drop boxes
At
are
the
not
start of
increasing
this.
election integrity. Instead, they're leading to voter intimidation complaints. Although monitoring and transparency in our elections is critical, voter intimidation is unlawful. And obviously, all of this is fucking scary, especially when you consider all the threats of violence we saw in Maricopa County back in 2020 after it became a center point
to punish myself.
to overturn the election results in Arizona. But also, a key thing here, in no way is that the only instance of voter intimidation Arizona has seen since early voting began in the state on October 12th, with the local outlet ABC 15 reporting multiple other complaints have been filed with the Secretary of State's office recently. This including one where an Arizona voter wrote, there's a group of people hanging out near the ballot drop box filming and photographing my wife and I as we approach the drop box and accusing us of being mules. They took photographs of our license plate and of us and then followed us out the parking lot in one of their cars, continuing to film. In another complaint from around that same time, a voter reported that camo-clad people were taking pictures of them and their license plate as they dropped ballots in a box outside the Maricopa County Elections headquarters, with a voter adding that when they approached the individuals and asked what group they were with, quote, they asked why I wanted to know. Well, it's because it's a personal attack. They basically said they're taking pictures looking for some fantasy BS on the voting citizenry. And these are just some of the other similar complaints that are happening right now. But also beyond that, people watching these ballot boxes is something that reporters at ABC 15 have even witnessed and recorded themselves. The outlet saying last Wednesday they encountered
Let's say sub 100.
And adding the
I'll
man
start
who
my
gave
next
his
set.
full name said he was watching the boxes as part of Clean Elections USA. And that does seem to track because according to the website
Surprisingly,
Clean Elections USA, it is an organization
my heart's not
trying to
beating as
recruit
fast as
people
compared
along ballot
to
boxes for fraud. But also,
a more
very key thing
resistance
here, the website
sort of
uses
training.
the same language about mules.
I would have
with
thought
claims
this would have got it
behavioral
right up
drop
there.
box to drop box, often driving from one county to the next to stuff
No.
we can only assume were fraudulent mail-in
I'm
ballots.
not gonna be able to
That
walk
obviously
tomorrow.
connected to the bullshit conspiracy theory, but it's one that has gained a lot of traction. Not only has this totally debunked claim been boosted by Trump, but as Vice reports, countless grassroots groups across the country have cropped up with the aim of monitoring these drop box locations and filming the people using them. With Vice saying that Clean Elections USA seems to be one of the most prominent. And the tactics this group claims to be using are incredibly alarming. With its founder, Melody Jennings, going on Steve Bannon's podcast last week and saying, "We are posting pictures up of these mules, people are getting the word, they are showing up, or people are showing up and gathering around boxes and shutting this stuff down." They're going on to claim that the group was geo-tracking voters and got cameras on the back sides of them. But understand, this is just a smokescreen for voter intimidation. They're counting on this to fuck up voter participation for those who aren't on the right. And so as far as what happens next, I mean, you have the Arizona Secretary of State's office referring all of the complaints of voter intimidation to the Department of Justice. But in the meantime, the situation is what it is right now. So I think one of the best bets you can do is come up with a voting plan right now. That way you're not waiting till last minute and you're like, oh, I don't want to have to deal with the fucking weirdos that are going to be taking pictures of me. And you get the damn thing done and you don't give these fucking anti-democratic assholes any satisfaction. And then the UK has now chosen its third prime minister in just 7 weeks. Or rather, the Conservatives now pick someone that they hope will not humiliate them like the last two did. Now remember, on Thursday, Liz Truss resigned after her tax cuts package crashed and burned, taking the British economy with it. With that then clearing the way for a new leadership contest, which looked like it might resurrect Boris Johnson from his self-imposed political exile in the Caribbean. And that getting cut short on Saturday when he suddenly flew back to London for an apparent re-election bid, and reportedly he got booed by his passengers along the way. But he got there and he joined other party members in a mad dash to garner enough nominations for a leadership spot, saying on Sunday he had actually secured more than 100
Sorry, you have to listen to my panting.
putting him above the threshold. But he did ultimately conclude that he lacked the popular support to govern effectively. Just before the weekend came to a close, Johnson dropped out, leaving the UK with only one choice for Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, who was a former finance minister under Boris Johnson and an MP since 2015, and his election is historic in a few ways. He's actually the first non-white leader, the first Hindu leader, and the youngest leader in 2 centuries at just 42 years old. But Also, as others have pointed out, he's also one of the richest lawmakers in Parliament, having worked for Goldman Sachs and 2 hedge funds, and being married to a daughter of an Indian billionaire. The couple's fortune estimated to be worth around £730 million. As far as his economic policies, they're what you'd expect. He supports Brexit, deregulation, and lower taxes in certain contexts. Though, on that last part, he notably broke from Liz Truss's plan to cut taxes over the summer, saying that he would only do so once inflation came under control. Whether you love him or you hate him, he's really the Conservatives' final shot to clean up the political economic mess left behind by the last 2 weeks. As far as how he's going to stabilize the country, that's unclear right now, though the one thing we do know is he will almost certainly stay away from the disastrous experiment in libertarian economics that sank trust. Because since his last leadership bid in July, the economy has only gotten worse, with saying this month the UK is effectively in a recession. There, pointing to data showing that economic activity hit a 21-month low. Sunak's also facing a cost of living crisis, still unresolved Brexit negotiations, and internal party pressure over immigration. That's in addition to the external pressure from the Labour Party, which is expected to call for an immediate general election to ratify his popular mandate. With the Conservatives understandably terrified of that prospect because opinion polls put them far behind the opposition, so he would likely get swept out of pound. Though, lucky for them, they aren't required to hold another election until the end of 2024. So as far as what happens next, Sunak should officially take power sometime today or Tuesday. Bojo, I imagine going back to the Caribbean, and I will keep my eyes on this story for you, and all you got to do is let me know your thoughts in those comments down below. But ultimately, that is where that story and today's show ends. Thanks for watching, subscribing, being a part of these daily dives in the news. If you haven't watched the morning show today, click that. You will not regret it. Or you can click it in the link down below. But as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow. Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show, the news show for people who hate keeping up with the news. Buckle up, make sure you're subscribed.
When they talk before they even sign the check first. Gas price up 150. Bullshit tax 1 billion. Suck it. 4K pay, that's really nothing. There's witchcraft on Disney. Bust it. They got everybody on mad 'cause the CGI neckbeards online saying DC fine while CN died. They're talking about what's more hype. And we're like civil unrest in Iran. March in the street and take off your hijab.
And let's just jump into it. Yo, Kanye done goofed. Remember when yesterday I showed you that what I thought was overlooked clip from that now removed podcast where Kanye said,
The thing about it, me and Adidas, is like, I could literally say anti-Semitic shit and they can't drop me. I could say anti-Semitic things and Adidas can't drop me. Now what?
Well, that is aged like milk left out in the sun, because Adidas this morning terminated their partnership with Kanye, with Adidas saying they do not tolerate anti-Semitism and any other sort of hate speech. Ye's comments and actions have been unacceptable, hateful, and dangerous, and they violate the company's values of diversity and inclusion, mutual respect, and fairness. And a key thing, they are ending their partnership with Kanye and, quote, ending production of Yeezy-branded products and stopping all payments to Ye and his companies. Adidas will stop the Adidas Yeezy business with immediate effect. And then, just hours after that, Gap, which ended their partnership with Kanye last month but were still selling products, announced they would immediately be removing Yeezy products from its stores, and even shutting down YeezyGap.com. It just goes to the Gap website now. And this is absolutely massive news for a few key reasons. First of which is, yes, there was pressure on Adidas to cut ties with Kanye. But I really can't help but stress how much it shows Kanye fucked up that Adidas did this. It's being reported they are going to lose out on $250 million by terminating this deal with Kanye. And that's not like gross sales, that is net profit. Kanye fucked up so much by spouting hate and disinformation and then leaning into it that a major company was willing to shoot themselves in the dick for $250 million. And as far as for Kanye, it's being estimated by Forbes that without the Adidas deal, his net worth has dropped to $400 million, meaning he'd no longer be a billionaire because his deal with Adidas was being valued at $1.5 billion. And I also don't know what this means for the future of Kanye and releasing products, especially if it's under the brand of Yeezy, because Adidas was sure to include in their statement that they are the sole owner of all design rights to existing products as well as previous and new colorways under the partnership. Maybe Kanye's already thinking of new brands to tap into his new market.
Still be a
just
struggle.
Look at the social reaction to Kanye right now. It looks like he's just like fucked up a lot of the goodwill from his old fans. And so maybe soon he drops the Blood and Soil 23s, maybe some
Still though,
air
about to hit 100.
Hopefully that's where we are. We'll have to wait to see
that
what happens next. But in the meantime, let me know your thoughts on this. And then Taylor Swift is fat-phobic, according to a number of people online following the release of her new album. Also, to preface the next part, I do want to say I do think those people are stupid, but here is the explanation. So along with Taylor Swift's album release, she released a music video for Anti-Hero, and it includes this moment of Taylor stepping onto a scale, and instead of a number, it just says fat. And this sparked some outrage from some on the internet who wrote things like, Taylor Swift saying, "Imagine if I was was fat. That's a nightmare. Is fat phobic even if it was unintentional, and that's why people are upset she used her enormous platform to display fat phobia. And think about who a majority of her fans are, teenage girls. In Taylor Swift's music video where she looks down at the scale where it says fat is a shitty way to describe her body image struggles. Fat people don't need to have it reiterated yet again that it's everyone's worst nightmare to look like us. You know, when I read that, I thought, I think two can play this game. I've been watching people participate in the Outrage Olympics for 15 years now. So to this, I say, how dare all these people say with their full chest, publicly, fuck Taylor Swift's struggles. How dare they dismiss this woman's struggle, who has had the word fat used against her as an insult, who has been very open about her struggles with eating disorders and body dysmorphia. Rather than keeping an open mind, you want to muzzle her so she can't share her own experiences and struggles. And that's in addition to these people just being fucking... This is a critique of fat phobia. I'm not even a Taylor Swift stan. I'm just anti-fucking stupid people. And I think part of the reason I'm so frustrated is that so much of the conversation around weight is fucking stupid. Whether it be this or what, like months ago when we talked about people getting outraged at a company because they had plus-size models and people were saying they were promoting obesity. So much of this has become nonsensical, overly emotional bullshit. But hey, this is the Philip DeFranco Show. That's a story, my opinion. And now I'd love to know yours, whether you agree or disagree with it. Let me know what you're thinking in those comments down below.
It's an efficient
and then
full-body
the rank
workout,
is
as you can
too
see.
fucking high, and as it turns out, very likely part of a unified effort to fuck you where it matters the most, your wallet. So in massive news this week, 9 of the largest property management companies and a price-setting software are now facing a lawsuit for allegedly colluding to keep rent prices high. Right, so at the center of this,
full-body
software
workout,
made by
not in one
RealPage
workout.
that's supposed to use a variety of metrics to
If
figure out
anything,
what rent should be for an
I
apartment.
just do this
But one
body
of
to
its most
work out life.
powerful tools is the information that its
Too much
clients
strength,
provide
it's
the
different, need more
software. Key
resistance,
things like
but
lease renewal dates
just want a
and
good
actual
workout.
rent rates, because that information is
Just want
then aggregated
exercise.
along other factors and used to
This is
pop out a rental
I wouldn't
rate
say
for
it's
the area.
easy, though.
RealPage
But
boasting
it's a
that
good one
using all
overall.
this information can give the most
I'm
accurate
probably
rental
just
prices
gonna
for
do
an area,
ab
and that
workouts
90%
because
of the
this is what I'm
time its
focusing on at the
recommended
moment.
rates are used.
But
But key thing, that
I
is
did
where
my
the
upper,
issue
did my
lies.
lower.
Most normally private information sharing allegedly
All within
turns all
30
these
minutes.
entities into an
It's
illegal
good.
cartel. But Phil, you may ask, how is sharing this private information allowing
last
these
time was a
companies
bit
to
lazy.
fuck me in my tight little wallet? It's a weird, dirty way to ask, but I'll explain. Normally, if an apartment building wanted to set a competitive price, it'd have to look online or call other buildings, get an idea of the going rental rates, at which point they could decide if they wanted to undercut the competition. But instead, what we're seeing are these apartment buildings all agreeing to just use RealPage's price, which uses the actual rent people pay to figure out prices. And in addition to that, RealPage's software apparently uses other schemes to help smooth out prices to keep them higher on average. This including things like staggering lease renewal dates to make sure that they're not all clustered around January and July. Because God forbid there was more availability at one time, people might be able to go, hey, I want to pay a lower price. This is not like a random side effect. This is something that RealPage brags about, boasting that by doing all of this, it can help clients experience rental rate improvements year over year between 5% and 12% in every market. Which, I mean, that doesn't mean that you are getting screwed by this, but there is a solid chance, especially considering that together these property management companies own hundreds of thousands of apartments in the country. And this problem is allegedly huge in areas like downtown Seattle, where 70% of the apartments are owned by the same 10 companies, all of which use this software. Now, as expected, all of these companies deny the allegations, but this is something that we're going to need to keep an eye on, especially as America has become more and more year over year becoming a renter nation. But for now, we wait to see if the lawyers and the courts can figure it out. And then, American optimism is at a record low.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
So there's this poll where Gallup asked, in America, each generation has tried to have a better life than their parents, with a better living standard, better homes, a better education, and so on. How likely do you think it is that today's youth will have a better life than their parents? Very likely, somewhat unlikely, and very unlikely. And they found that optimism dropped 18% since just 2019, with just 13% saying very likely, 29% saying somewhat likely, and 57% saying somewhat to very unlikely. We're talking about a drastic change that is now being referred to as the vibe session. And the breakdown by demographic is actually very interesting. As Insider explained, Republicans drove the drop in optimism, with just a third saying they think the next generation will fare better. And among Democrats, the majority of whom do think things will get better still saw their optimism at its lowest ever. And then, when it came to dollars, confidence in the economic future is actually higher among low earners, with a majority of households with an annual income below $40,000 saying they're optimistic. Though Gallup senior editor Megan Brennan said that could be because higher income Americans do seem to have more of a Republican lean. The main point, hope is hurting right now. And then, do you ever find yourself struggling to find the right words to say in order to convey what you feel or how to communicate clearly in emails? Well, that is exactly the reason I'm happy to thank the sponsor of today's show, Grammarly. Grammarly's communication assistance allows you to power through work efficiently and confidently by helping you write more clearly and effectively. Grammarly has a free version with comprehensive writing suggestions like grammar, spelling, and punctuation, but upgrading to Grammarly Premium boosts your productivity to get your work done in time with their advanced features. And personally, I love using Grammarly to check my writing before sending emails, video scripts, or whatever. With one of my favorite features being their Premium Clarity full sentence rewrite feature, which rephrases my hard-to-read sentences to keep my writing clear and concise. And the best time to get Grammarly is now. You can boost your productivity and clear your work tasks faster than ever, so future you, they don't have to work through the holidays ahead. So work smarter, not harder, and get your work done faster with Grammarly. Sign up for a free account and get 20% off Grammarly Premium at Grammarly.com/DeFranco. And then, are innocent Republicans just getting attacked in Florida for being Republican? That is a question that's being asked after Senator Marco Rubio dropped a bomb on Twitter Monday, writing, "Last night, one of our canvassers wearing my t-shirt and a DeSantis hat was brutally attacked by 4 animals who told him Republicans weren't allowed in their neighborhood in Hialeah, Florida. He suffered internal bleeding, a broken jaw, and will need facial reconstructive surgery." Right, so this immediately goes in the big if true category. A lot of people very angry, but also a lot of people very skeptical. Right, so Hialeah is a well-known Republican stronghold with a Republican mayor. So you have people saying, right, the idea that a gang of people would beat up a guy for being Republican isn't impossible, it's just a little strange. And then the skepticism with this story grew more and more intense when local media picked up a police report on this. And the account of what happened in that report was that the victim was handing out flyers when he came upon the house of Javier Lopez, who apparently approached him and said, "You can't pass by here, this is my neighborhood." So then says the victim crosses the street to avoid Lopez, says he's on public property, then argues some more until Lopez allegedly runs at him, grabs him, and slams him to the ground, punching him repeatedly. The police adding that a second unidentified suspect kicked him in the face, but it's not clear whether anyone else was involved. But here was a key kicker. Police added that there was no indication that Lopez was actually politically motivated, though the investigation is still ongoing. So for many, the question became, okay, well, if it's not politically motivated, why did this allegedly happen? Well, one thing that we've since learned is who the victim is. Meet Christopher Monzon, a man who reportedly earned his very own article on the Southern Poverty Law Center's website. This after he was arrested in 2017 for attacking protesters with a Confederate flag, all while wearing a shirt reading League of the South, which is a white nationalist group that advocates a second Southern secession, with him explaining,
"These people are committing genocide against the South. The current events being the violence instigated by these communist individuals who seek to silence us through means of violence and coercion."
Though also here, Monzon claimed last year that he resigned from this group years ago, has stopped using racial slurs, and is not and was never a white nationalist. But to that, others have said he's only trying to distance himself from his past because he was actually running for local office in Florida. And actually, regarding that, a review of his social media found that he's still active in neo-Confederate communities, which in part is why you had so many people saying, hey, he may have been attacked on Sunday not for being a Republican, but rather being a notorious racist in the area. Not that that would legally justify the violence against him, it just puts Rubio's explosive tweet in another possible context. So for now, we'll have to wait to see what comes from this investigation if we get more information, but in the meantime, I'd love to know your thoughts. And then, your kids, the kids, they're getting dumber. And many are saying the students are failing because schools aren't utilizing billions of dollars in funding. Right, so here's the situation. The Biden administration gave $122 billion to schools in March of 2021 to pull them out of the COVID slump. But according to a Washington Post analysis, schools across the country have spent less than 15% of it. Or specifically what we're talking about is the third round of the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief, or ESSER 3. When you look at the numbers, the spending rates vary wildly from state to state and even district to district within states. But key thing, the money's just collecting dust in many places where it's needed the most. All this as student math and reading scores have plunged to the lowest they've been in decades thanks to the pandemic. And when the 211 districts where the students are estimated to be the furthest behind were examined, they found that half of them had used less than 5% of the ESSER 3 funds. So of course the question is, why? Why is this money not being spent? Well, in some places it's very straightforward. The funds are just not immediately available, causing a delay in the spending. But according to education professionals in Baltimore, state approval didn't come through until October of 2021, meaning that most of the planning for spending this money was made for the 22 to 23 and 23 to 24 school years. Also, other reasons for the delay include the nationwide educator shortage and the desire to make the money last as long as possible. Or the ESSER 3 expires in September of 2024, so some districts are trying to stretch it out. That including an assistant superintendent in Washington who said, rather than a huge fire hose of funding in a single year or even 2 years, we've been intentional to think about how do we stretch this funding to have supports for students as long as possible. Because the key thing I want you to take away from this, it's not like all these schools are just abandoning their students to a life of finger counting and illiteracy. This problem requires careful planning and tens of millions of dollars, notably in a field where money is often a problem. So much so that it's become standard to see teachers doing like fun little TikToks as a way to try to get people to go to their Amazon wish list so they can actually do something for the students. Regarding this new money, according to the White House and an analysis of thousands of school district spending plans for the next 2 years, the vast majority of these funds are committed to critical needs. Are we talking about things like reversing learning loss and addressing the mental health issues of students? In Baltimore, for example, $9 million will be spent to bring in outside organizations and tutors to over 100 schools. In Tennessee, they're awarding extra funding to districts that spend half their ESSER funds on academics and participate in a multi-year tutoring program. In D.C., $40 million is being poured into a tutoring program that will reach over 8,000 students across the next 2 years. But also, as great as these plans in place are, some districts are just behind on the spending, with one professional from Education Resource Strategies saying, in some cases, probably the plan review and approval took longer than they assumed. I think the majority of cases, though, were about challenges getting management capacity to get spending initiatives kicked off. But then finally with this, I think it's incredibly important to note that the data available for these funds also might not tell the full story. Education experts say that the number reported for each district is the amount that they have requested from the state, because school districts, when using ESSER money, actually spend local funds and are reimbursed later by the state. And so yes, with learning loss setting students back to the 90s, it's disheartening to hear that some districts aren't spending the money available to them. However, many are taking advantage of these millions of dollars and trying to solve the problems the pandemic created for students. And the hope is that in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, we start seeing the meaningful change happen on the ground. But where I'll leave you with this messy, troubling, but hopefully hopeful story is I'd love to know your thoughts regarding what you've been seeing. Because while I can talk about the story at a national or a state level and one person sharing a story that's anecdotal, if a lot of people share it, that's actually a snapshot of what's happening across the country. But ultimately, that is where that story and today's show ends. As always, thank you for watching and subscribing to my daily dives in the news. If you're looking for more news, you can click right here to watch yesterday's show or the brand new series we just launched. Those links also in the description down below. But my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Increase muscle size, to really think not so much about moving weights, but more about challenging muscles.
Yeah.
I also heard this from my friend Ben Pekulski, who's a very well accomplished. He was a bodybuilder. Now he's into other aspects of fitness, teaches fitness. But don't move weights, challenge muscles, unless you're trying to power lift or something of that sort, which I'm not. Immensely helpful. The other thing that I learned from you that I combined with that was this idea that certain muscles will grow better and get stronger much more easily, maybe even will recover better because of our ability to contract them really hard. And this, what I call the Cavalier test, which is, at least if I could paraphrase, so for instance, if I can, it's always the bicep, isn't it? Let's use the calf or the bicep. If you can flex your bicep to the point where it hurts a little bit, like it almost feels like a cramp, or you can flex your calf to the point where it really cramps up a little bit, almost feels like it's knotting up. That's a pretty good indication that you're going to be able to stimulate that muscle well under load if you're doing the movement properly.
Right.
And that's the feeling to actually aim for each repetition, maybe even throughout the repetition. For me, this completely transformed my results. And this was, I think, maybe 5-6 years ago that I first heard this from you. Body parts that for me lagged behind, that I thought maybe genetically weren't going to work for me, immediately just started growing, right? And I was getting stronger and stronger. And I thought, this is really something, so much so that I've dedicated a portion of my research, along with, in collaboration with another group, to try and understand what's happening in these upper motor neurons in the brain that can engage the muscles even more. And that it's not just about progressive overload or putting a pump into the muscle, that it's really, this mind-muscle connection is a real thing when it comes to predicting results, and that you can get better at it. So forgive me for paraphrasing your incredible content around this. It made a tremendous difference for me and a number of other people that I've passed that along to. But what can you, first of all, how did you arrive at that? Because we hear about the mind-muscle connection, but I really heard it first from you. How did you arrive at this kind of cramp test, the Cavalier test, as I'll call it? It's always weird when people name things after themselves in science, but other scientists can name things. So there's now officially the Cavalier test is whether or not you can cramp the muscle in the absence of load, just flexing it to the point where it hurts a little bit. That would be a good indication that you could grow that muscle well. How did you come up with this?
I mean, it honestly is something that made sense to me because during my workouts, even as a young kid just starting out, like I always wanted to know, what is it working? You know, a lot of people ask that question more so than you think. Like, what is this supposed to work? And and I don't know if you've ever noticed, but like when people ask that question, if they're being trained by a trainer, and the trainer's saying, well, just do this exercise, and they'll show you how to do it. But then they'll say, but what is it supposed to work? Where am I supposed to feel this, right? People, did they just inherently ask that question? A lot of people will. I was one of those that did that, and I asked that question, not because I knew what I was doing, but just because, I don't know, I wanted to know what was supposed to be doing the work. Once you do that and you start to seek that out and say, okay, well, if the bicep is what's supposed to be doing the work, then I want to make sure the bicep's doing the work, right? So then I would just sort of really like tweak the movement to make it do more work or feel more uncomfortable or get a stronger contraction, knowing if that's supposed to do the job. It wasn't until PT school that I'm learning, oh, well, flexion of the elbow is the brachialis and the bicep's responsible for supination. Like I learned other components of it, but all I wanted to know was to bring my arm up in a curl, what is supposed to do the job. So I would seek out ways to make that happen better. And when I was able to do that, I could feel the stronger contraction. And I don't know what I was no visionary. I just felt like I knew that was going to be better for me if the muscle I was trying to grow was being stressed more effectively. So when I was
athletes break records. No one wants to see everyone run progressive. And it'd be an interesting conversation to talk about the role of testosterone in neural repair. It's very interesting. But when you
as a referee or again,
even if they're on their phones and they're reading and doing their transdermal.
Yeah.
So that's a really unusual situation. Way he's planning something really amazing.
And they did their best to just.
I saw your podcast with him and Lexus. Is he a New Zealander?
As a ref.
And it'd be an interesting conversation to talk about the role of testosterone in neural repair. It's very interesting. Estrogen. And so those two herbal supplements together can give a significant boost in free and active testosterone.
So you said Tungat Ali can give you 100 to 200?
Yeah, about that.
Well, what does the other one give you?
Fedoja is usually taken at about 600 milligrams. And that can the most dramatic effect I've ever seen was somebody who had his testosterone down in the low twos, or I think it was like low twos, and he got it up to the 700 range, but that's an outlier, right? Most people are going to see about a 300 to 400 point increase.
And that's what the two of them synergistically.
Fedoja will actually make the testes grow. It's a noticeable difference. So
everybody wants that.
Well, the reason I know about this stuff, people are probably thinking like, Huberman's running gear out of the back of his car. So that's not what this is about. Is that I do a certain amount of work with military, and I do a certain amount of work with professional athletes who cannot take androgen compounds out of a syringe because they'll lose their job.
Right.
Or they've been doing that and they want to come off. Although, and I'm not going to out the organization, but there is one major professional sports organization where, let's just say if somebody gets injured, they have permission to take up to 200 milligrams a week of testosterone.
Soccer.
No.
No?
No. But good guess. You almost got me there, because I almost countered with the actual thing that it is.
Hockey?
No. Although those guys have the head injuries. So actually,
right?
The head injury thing is a serious problem, obviously. So testosterone has the effects we're all aware of, like deepening the voice, facial hair, muscle growth, recovery, etc. Mostly because testosterone increases protein synthesis. You look at a young male in puberty, it's a protein synthesis machine.
Yeah.
They eat, and they just grow and grow and grow, and they're putting on muscles, and they're lean, and So most often they're lean. But in any case, testosterone has some very interesting effects on the brain. The major mental effect of testosterone is it makes effort feel good.
Oh, that makes sense.
And the reason it does it is that the amygdala, this fear center in the brain, this anxiety center in the brain, has androgen receptors. It has testosterone receptors. And so, age in battle, rescue the other member of his species.
For a full day to go to meet the lady, it's a
beard growth. It has an inverse effect. He, I believe, got popped for clenbuterol.
Talk of him being...
There's an active component of plant to animal warfare where
that I had. It was one of our sponsors, Jamie. There was a cooling pad that
Someone pointed that out.
that I had. It was one.
You have little tiny hair fall. The brain injury that a
Just larger human beings.
misses an Olympic lift. Sure, they can get hurt, but someone else isn't trying to. Lutein, that's going to be good for. So that
Vision.
those are going to be good for eye health. And actually, I looked into it based.
I'm looking for something in particular I was listening to. I'm improving my sleep.
Even if they're on their phones and they're reading and doing their thing, they don't develop nearsightedness. Focused in front of the retina details, improves eye health. It reduces.
Someone.
Now that doesn't mean you have to do the 1,000-mile stare. Just looking at things up close, and
It's
and into his later years.
they're both running. I guess has got
Love them. Happier, saner. Got a tib machine, a glute
doing stupid shit with my body.
gravity, and ability to jump. I love his stuff because he's really pointing to the fact that this muscle on the shin anyway seems to
It's really lean all the way back. Oh, like there's
roll thing.
it's just deep tip.
So can do all the things he's talking about
Yes.
doing, dunking basketball.
Yeah, my
Do you?
Yeah.
And I agree completely with your statement. It's all connected.
Mhm.
Starrett.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
he's
great,
awesome.
Great train. It seems
Mhm.
crazy. Why?
Again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marsh years ago, recently,
Next day with a fractured ankle,
a guy on a mountain bike died doing this.
and they did their the elbow at the point. So he's throwing it up. See,
That for most
no, I'll tell you what exactly. We had our original Alpha Brain from on.
way his next he's planning. But I'm into dreaming. I think dreaming is a
Like a
Swanson.
cocktail.
Yeah, and I should be very clear that maybe because I've been transdermal.
Yeah.
So that's a really unusual situation where if you get, and there are some magnesium creams and things like that.
But you're not going to get it in the kind of volume that you get it when you lie in it like that. And when you're doing that, what magnesium is that?
So that's usually a magnesium biglycinate, which is another one of these forms of magnesium that can get transported into the brain really easily. And most people actually are magnesium deficient. I think that most people would do well by increasing their magnesium intake.
I supplement, but I think I supplement with citrate.
Yeah, so citrate has its value. Malate, again, is good for muscle soreness. But 3 and 8, what you want to take is about 300 to 400 milligrams.
Okay.
But what you'll notice is on the bottle, it'll say elemental magnesium, and then magnesium will be 300 to 400, and then it'll say equals 1,000 milligrams. Basically, just go for 300 to 400 milligrams, and you're good. And then the other thing is apigenin, APIGENIN. And this stuff is terrific. It basically, that's the only source I'm aware of.
Oh, this is like
Swanson.
a cocktail.
Yeah. Those are the three things.
Well, I bet a bunch of people just started buying it together because this is just frequently bought together.
Right. So those are the three that I recommend. And then L3, and so for apigenin, it's 50 milligrams. Women see the prostate health thing and they freak out.
50. Oh, women see prostate health thing and they freak
Well,
out.
they think, oh, is it testosterone in a
for
bottle?
guys,
Yeah,
right.
whereas all the gym rats are like testosterone in a bottle. Yeah, they get excited.
Bro.
So apigenin turns on a chloride channel. The way neurons work is you got stuff going in and out of them. And the chloride channel tends to turn off neurons a little bit in a good way and creates a kind of a little sedative role. It kind of helps you drift off into sleep. And it's the same stuff that's in chamomile tea.
So this has no negative side effects for women?
Not that I'm aware of.
Uh-oh, I hate that term.
Well, okay. So I know a number of people, including women, that use it and are fine, are still fertile. You know, I don't know. I mean, I haven't tested their fertility personally.
What
but
is the idea of it? What the benefits for prostate health?
So it does seem to have a small amount of estrogen antagonism. It can block estrogen receptors a little bit, but it's a very weak affinity.
Maybe it calm some ladies down.
I
said that.
We could
not Mr. Huberman.
Thank you. Well,
just a joke.
Years
ladies.
ago,
Stop screaming.
Years ago, I worked on hormones and development. We could go there. Hormone effects on the brain. That was my master's thesis. But but theanine, THEAINE, also has a little bit of an anxiolytic, an anti-anxiety effect. And there is something to think about with theanine. People now put theanine in energy drinks so that people will drink more energy drinks and not get the jitters.
Interesting.
And so it's showing up. I recommend taking these 30 to 60 minutes before sleep.
And what do you recommend for a dose for theanine?
For theanine, it's going to be 100 to 400 milligrams. However, if you're a sleepwalker or you have what are called night terrors, where you have really disturbing dreams, leave the theanine out, because the dreams on theanine are intense.
Really?
I've actually got everything that he's prescribing right now. I'm testing to see if I can get much more out of my sleep. I already get pretty good sleep, but you know, always room for improvement.
Leave the theanine out, because the dreams on theanine are intense.
Really?
I like them, but it's intense.
You keep doing this.
But I'm into dreaming. I think dreaming is a really interesting
I think
state.
theanine is in that neurogum, isn't it, young Jamie? I think it's in there.
They're putting it in everything now. The one thing about magnesium threonate I should mention is that there are some data, not a ton, that it's also neuroprotective. So there's at least one study, peer-reviewed, independent, you know, not a company paying for the study, but done by a laboratory with no bias, that shows that magnesium threonate can offset some forms of age-related cognitive decline. So that's also that's another reason to.
So the cocktail of the three of them,
Yeah.
the reason for putting the three of them together.
There seems to be some sort of synergistic effect, because some people, of course, will take something for a long period of time and then it'll stop working. You can take these; they're not habit forming. I mean, I've taken them consistently and then taken breaks and then go back on them, and they really. In most cases, I mean, I guess if someone had a heart condition, a serious heart condition, anytime you mess with magnesium, because you have neurons in your heart, magnesium's involved in neuron function. Obviously, the usual things, check with your doctor, you know.
Right.
And obviously, I'm not a doctor and professor, so I profess things. I'm not prescribing anything, but it's helped a tremendous number of people get into sleep better and stay asleep.
Interesting.
And I think Walker would generally agree. I can't speak for him. He's really into all this new. Like, I don't want to take it away with his next kind of, he's planning some really amazing public education stuff. I've pulled him into the mix.
He freaked a lot of people out on my podcast.
Well, he scared people a bit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So we talked about that. I mean, like, I think, first of all, that was an important podcast. It wasn't just a brilliant podcast. It was important because people were ignoring sleep. We heard go hard driving. And it's very important that people understand that the fundamental layer of health, mental health and physical health, is regular quality sleep. So he scared people appropriately, I think. And now he's shifting to how can you get better at sleeping? And we're joining forces in that mission, but I want to be really clear, he's doing it on his own too. I don't want to give away what he's got planned, but basically so Matt, David Sinclair, me, you know, Lex, all the nerds, we're kind of like, we're trying to get out there with the scientific information and help people. And so Matt's got some really terrific sleep science and actionable sleep tool plans for the world.
Well, when is he going to do that? I'd love to have him back on when he's ready to launch that.
Okay, Matt, I'm going to out you now. So, yeah, so he and I had a discussion recently. He is talking about doing a brief weekly podcast on sleep health, launching sometime in August or September.
Oh, great.
Which I just think is going to help so many people.
Sure, and brief would make it nice because it's easy to digest.
Yeah, I still haven't learned the brief thing. I'm not well known for being concise.
Well, you're talking to me, man. I can't shut the fuck up.
Well, I would say I have kind of a scientific Tourette's. It's like some people with Tourette's, they shout out like explicatives, like I'm shouting out scientific information. I can't help it.
Well, that's great. It just means you love what you do.
I do. I can't help myself.
Now, theanine, using theanine to help sleep, it seems so strange to me that it would also be a nootropic, that it would also be something that enhances brain function. Because it kind of, I take, Alpha Brain just released it today, Alpha Brain Black Label, the strongest version of Alpha Brain, which I've been testing over the last 6 months. Actually, more.
Is it alpha GPC at high dose?
No, I'll tell you what exactly. You know, we had our original Alpha Brain from On It, and then there's an ad for it that they just put out today. There's a new version of Alpha Brain that's been really beneficial to me. It's just, for me, like, you know, we did some double-blind placebo-controlled studies at the Boston Center for Memory when we first released Alpha Brain. So what do you think about this stuff here? So it's got theanine in it.
Yep. So the theanine is going to take down some of the stimulant effect of the caffeine and kind of, you know, the best way to work, the best nootropic is something that's going to put you in alert but calm.
Right.
You don't want to be super jazzed.
You don't want to be on amphetamines.
No. I mean, if you're...
Another one done. Not as much as what I expected, but I did it. Now I got the baseline that I can at least do 6 sets of burpees, 20 reps each. One day, you know what? If I ever hit 1,000 workout stream videos, sure, I'll do 1,000 burpees then. I regret it now already by saying that, but it's a goal. It's a goal. It's something to work towards. Considering that I barely did 120. Let's see. Maybe I'll do it on the weekend of that 1,000 or something like that. I'll spend a whole day doing it, I guess. What am I setting myself up for? Okay. Alright, done for the day. Gotta get ready, gotta go shower. Oh, there it goes. Gotta go shower. Gotta prep dinner. Be a good house husband. Wash all this wax out of my hair. Anyway. Just some light listening to that I've been doing to on the podcasts. One with Alex Huberman, I think. One that pertained towards vision, motivation, and working out. A bit of an insight, I guess. No, this one's with Jeff Cavalier as well. Both of them sort of go into this, where how therapists like me, especially physical therapists and whatnot, when we suggest workouts, I guess when we suggest them at that time, like, we know what we need to prescribe our patients, but we always forget that for that person in that time, that's probably the most that they've ever done in that moment. Like me telling someone to do 3 sets of push-ups for 3 days in that week, it might not sound like much to me and for others, but for that person, that's probably the most they've ever done in a while. Hence why they've come into me with the issue, whatever they might have at that time, that I would have had to prescribe those exercises. But yeah, I guess something I got to change around my channel. Essentially, just trying to say that try to not think of the whole picture. Try not think about how much you need to do to get to where you need to get, but more just getting started. Starting is the hardest part. A lot of people can plan, fair enough. If you can plan, nothing wrong with that. But sometimes all you need to do is just get started. The best plan is the one that gets you going, that gets you moving. The best workout, the best diet is the one that has you sticking to it the most consistently. So, a few things I'm going to have to change up with how I talk to my patients, and how I give them homework. I have to remind myself that, yeah, whatever I'm giving them might sound easy to me and a lot of others, but it's a lot for them. That's what makes it so special, I guess, between patient and patient. Everyone's going through their own journey, everyone, including themselves. Anyway, gonna go clean up, get ready. Did this guy go out? Yeah, massaging his rhomboids. Massaging his, no, not rhomboids, his infraspinatus. Not too many people scratch you through there, do they? Anyway, going to see now, talk to my cat. 100 workouts done. 101 on Friday, most likely in the morning. As usual, had work this morning, or else it would have worked out today in the morning, but it is what it is. Found time to do it, and I did it. But yeah, anyway. I guess my message at the end is just start small. Don't think of the whole road, just start with the first step. Just that whole minimalistic thing, I guess, like going at the other end of the spectrum rather than being like, this is what I need to get done, here's the whole journey, there's everything I need to do, these are the goals that I want to reach by the end of it, blah blah blah. It's good, it's motivating, gets you started. Motivation's easy, discipline's the hard part, staying in it is the hard part. Whereas if anyone can do it, anyone can do it, but obviously not everyone does it, so find what works for you, I guess. I just started young, I guess that's where I got most of my motivation from. I've always had an affinity towards physical activities, but especially throughout high school as a kid, and that I wasn't the most studious type. I always liked being practical outside the classroom. Sort of set me in my ways of not wanting to work in an office, I guess. But, you know, it is what it is, whatever the inspiration is. But I guess starting from there, I guess I learned early that, yeah, like everyone, I don't think I've ever, unless you had an upbringing since birth, with physical activities and exercise and whatnot, fair enough, but a lot of times, like most people, like me, in that you will fall off the horse. You will have moments, if you're not, even those that are professional athletes since young, like, they're going to have their days, where they fall off, and, you know, what makes them different to others is they get right back up, they push further than others. On the days that people say no, they say yes. I've just learned how to guilt trip myself over the years. I'm very good at guilt tripping myself. For the better, of course, most of the time. It gets a bit toxic sometimes, but, you know, as long as it gets me to do the work. Whatever works in the end, I guess. Yeah, anyway. So next time, 58 minutes, man, still hitting that hour mark. I was surprised, I thought I'd be finished earlier. But anyway, alright. Take care, till next time. Say bye, Chella. Look up this way.